I welcome you to the virtual roundtable discussion on National Education Policy 2020, Demystifying Transformation of Indian Education. The eminent panelists of the discussions are Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, Honorable MP Rajyasabha, Chairman HRD Committee, and President of ICCR. Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, Vice Chairman, University Grants Commission. Shri Ashish Shelar, former Minister of School Education, Government of Maharashtra. Professor Suhas Pednekar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Mumbai, and Professor Milind Marathe, former President ABVP and Patron of Vidyapeeth, Vikas Manch. We thank the eminent panelists for their gracious presence in this roundtable. We also thank all the registered members for joining us today and communicating their questions. Several questions we have incorporated as part of the panel discussion. Students, parents, teachers, administrators, and educationists who have joined us today are vital stakeholders and contributors for the successful in-spirit implementation of the policy. Hope that this session will demystify aspects of the NEP and answer your queries. The new Education Policy 2020 was recently approved in the Union Cabinet. The journey of formulating the NEP by HRD Ministry had started in 2015, and the evolved, optimized document is at the threshold of being implemented, with the major milestones in the execution timelines falling in the next 10 years. The policy is expected to be fully operational by 2040, to be comprehensively reviewed again. This change is coming 34 years after the last national education policy of 1986, which was modified in 1992. The NEP 2020 has provisioned for some radical changes, restructuring, and transformations from pre-primary to higher education. That is expected to lead to overhauling of the systems and shifts from archaic practices, the pivotal focus being on optimization of resources, quality by design, academic flexibility, critical thinking, experiential learning, interactive classrooms, integrated pedagogies, inter and transdisciplinary approaches for competency and outcomes-based student-centric 21st century education. With this, I request Shri.Deepakkumar Mukadam, founder of Academisthan and Chancellor's nominee on the Management Council of University of Mumbai, to speak on the objectives, scope, and need for this virtual roundtable on NEP 2020. Deepak ji.
Namaskar, good evening, and welcome to the roundtable on the recently announced National Education Policy 2020. It suggests path-breaking reforms and aims at making the education system more holistic, flexible, inclusive, multidisciplinary, aligned to the needs of 21st century, thereby fulfilling the SDG 4 of providing quality education. Academisthan is a not-for-profit organization focusing on teachers' welfare. We, along with Vidyapeeth Vikas Manch, an organization working in the field of education since last 3 decades, and Srujan Sampada, have come together to organize the roundtable webinar as the topic is very relevant to our objective. We have as our audience today more than 6,000 participants representing various stakeholders in the broad education sector. As per 2018-19 report of AISHE, 91 lakh students graduate every year in India, making it officially the largest education system in the world. Acknowledging this policy aims at universalization of education from preschool, secondary level with 100% gross enrollment ratio in school education by 2030 and 50% gross enrollment ratio in higher education by 2035. The policy for radical reforms in primary education. In higher education, the policy emphasizes on conceptual understanding rather than on widely practiced rote learning. It aims at simplifying the regulatory mechanisms by establishing a Higher Education Commission of India, HECI, that will act as a single umbrella body for higher education. As per a report, there are 800 universities in India, 40,000 colleges, out of which 40% college run single program. 20% of them have a student enrollment of less than 100, while 4% have an enrollment over 3,000. To correct this anomaly, the policy moves the idea of restructuring all higher education institutions and recommends their transformation into multidisciplinary universities and colleges. A welcome step in the policy is breaking of silos between arts and science, academic and vocational streams, thus giving flexible to learners to choose their learning trajectories according to their talents and interests. It also provides for a holistic undergraduate education with a flexible curriculum of 3 or 4 years with multiple exits of options and appropriate certification at each level. The policy has boosted the introduction of much needed credit system and provides for establishment of an academic bank of credit which will digitally store these credits. India's investment on research and innovation is meager 0.69% of the GDP, compared to 2.8% in US, 4.2% in South Korea, and 4.3% of GDP in Israel. To bridge this gap, a national research foundation is being mooted as an apex body for fostering a strong research culture in higher education. The idea of internationalization of education mooted through this policy will be facilitated by allowing foreign institutions to set up campuses in India. This is an education policy rooted in Indian ethos, contributing directly to transforming India sustainably into an equitable, vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. In the words of Martin Luther King, the function of education is to teach one to think critically, intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. The policy, if implemented in its true spirit, will help us achieve that. However, certain questions arise on its implementation. For example, education being a concurrent list subject in the Indian Constitution requires both central and state government to work in tandem. The three language formula has once again found very little support in southern states. The responsibility of imparting education on low skilled Anganwadi workers in the most crucial early age of child is questionable. The policy also seems to be silent on question of recruitment of teachers in higher education institutions. And lastly, the most challenging of all is the spending of 6% of GDP on education sector. I remember during my activist days, we suggested spending of 10% of GDP on education, yet 35 years later, we are still at meager 3%. I hope our panelists will address a few of these questions in their remarks. I now invite Dr. Anuradha Majumdar Madam to take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to pose the first question to Professor Milind Marathe. Many of the questions, as I said earlier, have come from our registered members. Sir, what is the philosophical vision of NEP 2020? Can you elaborate briefly on that?
Good evening to all viewers and honorable what you can say hosts or experts which are present in this particular webinar. Actually, what I feel that if you look at the policy document, it is a vision document. And as Madam has posed the question that what is the philosophy of this particular education policy, to name few adjectives for the philosophy, I think that this particular national education policy is India-centric, primacy of Indian languages. It is forward-looking and trying to imbibe the qualities and skill sets which are required by the students and citizens of this country in 21st century. because the situation of 21st century is going to be very peculiar, typical, and we have to prepare our students to handle that situation. So that's why it is a forward looking, but its roots are strongly there, rooted in indigenous wisdom of the rich Indian culture. Another important philosophical aspect of this policy is it is integrated. It is thinking from a student or a child from age 3 to age 18 for 12th standard and up to his graduation, post graduation, research. So it is thinking in an integrated way. Second is the policy is comprehensive. It touches to all aspects of education, including specific thrust given for technical education, agricultural education, medical education as a separate topics there present in the policy. And lastly, I would like to say that it is all encompassing and alert. All encompassing meaning it is taking care of each and every student which is potentially in the age group of studentship should be in this particular education system. May he or she may be from socio-economically disadvantaged groups or from a fortunate elite group. May the student be from rural or urban areas, from his parents may be literate or illiterate, but each and every student will be there accommodated in this policy, and that's why it is all encompassing. Then it is a student friendly policy. So I think that these are some of the what you can say attributes for the philosophy of the policy, and while implementing it they have said that it must be a collaborative efforts between state and center, between institutes and schools, between institutes and institute and industry, talking about school complex and college clusters or institute cluster. So that's why I feel that this policy is समता मूलक, सर्व समावेशक, सजग और विद्यार्थी के सर्वांगीण विकास के लिए कार्यरत, भारत को आत्मनिर्भरता की ओर ले जाने की ताकत जिस पॉलिसी में है ऐसी ये पॉलिसी है. थैंक्स अ लॉट.
Thanks, sir. So let us go further to some granular aspect of the policy document. I would request Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan. Sir, wanted to pose a question to you. As per the thrust on outcomes-based and competence-based higher education, which is envisioned in the NEP 2020, what kind of curriculum? We have an idea regarding it, but you are representing University Grants Commission, the apex body. So what kind of curriculum restructuring, flexibility, and assessment is expected in higher education in the future? Also, please elaborate on the academic credit bank. Students are very curious to know about that. And what measures are incorporated to achieve, which will be a very daunting task for us, to achieve GER to 50% by 2025 in higher education?
Yeah, thank you, Anuradha ji. You have asked me many questions. So if I forget anything, please remind me that, I will catch. First, at the outset, I must tell you that you started the discussion very well. Your background introduction was excellent, Anuradha ji. And if Deepak ji, Mukadam ji, you also gave a very good insights, since your days, what efforts have been taken. And Milinji, I must compliment you. Whatever you have talked, I hope it is being recorded. But what you have talked about the policy should actually be printed as a gist of the policy or essence of the policy or distillate of the policy. Very well said. Excellent. You have covered almost all the aspects. Thank you, Vinayji, for this opportunity to get connected. Coming to the specific questions, I will start with the National Academic Credit Bank, or now what is it called as Academic Bank of Credits, or ABC. As mentioned, this policy is a student-centric policy. So all these days, what was happening, although we were saying student-centric system, there was no choice for student. Really, there was no choice for student. For example, if students want to learn, they will go and look for some institution. They will buy prospectus. Prospectus will give you some information. Then they will take admission. Then they will get syllabus. After the syllabus and admission and teaching is started, they will also get at some stage question bank and even model answers, and we will evaluate them based on how much they are able to reproduce from the model answers and based on the question banks we are giving. So essentially, it has been a teacher-centric system, and teachers were mostly by and large teaching what they know. And so there was need to innovate the whole system, and this policy has given a tremendous boost for making it student-centric. So now students are able to choose. The disciplinary silos are being broken. Students from technology can learn humanities. Students from medicine can learn other systems of medicine. And this kind of a confluence of knowledge from different disciplines is possible now. And the credits will be earned by the students. So the student interest will drive his or her own academic quest. And this is a major change. Now the credits will be deposited in the bank, and as and when student earns required credit for a particular certificate, diploma or degree, student can encash those credits, like you get a check and encash that check from a bank. This will exactly work as a bank, and some credits may have longer life, for example, languages, Sanskrit and other credits may have a longer life, as against computer-like subjects which keep on fast changing will have shorter life. So everything will be embedded in the new ABC, or Academic Bank of Credit, and students will get an opportunity to earn credits as per their own convenience. Now, as for now, we are telling students that if you want to come for BA, this is a course, and 3 years is the duration, 6 semesters, and if they don't complete in that, you put a stamp of failure on that, and which is not right actually, because many students may not be able to do that in 3 years. Many students may take even 5 years. Many students may be able to do it in 2 years. So students' capacity, capability also has to be taken into consideration, which this policy is now going to take. So in all, this ABC will be a revolutionary concept, which is going to be student-centric. Now coming to your question regarding the curriculum. In our curriculum, what we used to give is information-related aspects, and the pedagogy has been by and large giving information. So class notes of teachers, during our time at least, class notes used to be a power of teacher, and good class notes used to get circulated from one college to other, because if the teacher is good, his notes used to be shared. So that was a power. Now these kinds of class notes have become liability, because knowledge is changing so rapidly. So you don't need teachers to give you information. Teachers are needed to make sense out of that information. So this is what is going to be changed, and the curriculum has to be designed from that perspective, that what are the outcomes of the course. And this we call it at UGC as Learning Outcome Based Curriculum, or LOCF. LOCF is a new approach to curriculum, and we have already completed draft curricula of almost 40 different subjects, and they are now available on the UGC website. They are model LOCF, or Learning Outcome Based Curriculum, and universities can take that as a reference and develop their own curriculum based on this. I think this Learning Outcome Based Curriculum takes care of criticality, thinking, not only just giving information, and also gives pointers for the students to make sense out of that information. So the Adidhi, Bodha, Acharana and Pracharana These are the 4 major steps as per our Indian pedagogy, and this new LOCF based concept will address this. Aditi is getting information, Bodha is making sense out of that information, or converting that information is knowledge or innovation. Acharan is actually practicing, so there is practical component to it, and Pracharana is then preaching or propagating it further, so all these aspects are captured well, and I hope that this LOCF will also improve the quality of education, and employability or skill sets of students also will be improved. But for this purpose, teachers will have to take more efforts. Teachers cannot go on a routine mode of teaching, that is by giving PowerPoint. I must tell you that many times, and many students have told me this, that please tell your teachers not to bore us with bombardment of these PowerPoints, because PowerPoint is not something of converting your class notes into PowerPoint slides. So you have to remember that PowerPoint, there is term power. So you have to keep that power in the PowerPoint, and please don't give information, because students are smarter than us. They have grown with the technology. We have learned the technology. This is the major difference, and so students are able to get information from different available sources much rapidly than us. So let's be their mentor, let's be the facilitator, let's guide them, let's help them to learn how to think. So these are the new changes which new education policy or National Education Policy 2020 will open the doors, and implementation part, when it will start, the results of that will be more visible. I hope I have answered your questions. If I'm missing something, please feel free to ask.
Gross enrollment ratio target of 50%.
Oh yeah, gross enrollment ratio. See, gross enrollment ratio is a very, I would say, from Indian perspective, is not really appropriate term, GER, because of several reasons. I would suggest those who are interested, we have published a paper on GER in EPW, and separately I will forward that paper to you. There is an elaborate discussion about GER, and we are saying that for a country like India, rather than gross enrollment ratio, we should come out with gross eligibility ratio. Because gross enrollment ratio, what the problem in India like country is, we don't have simply the eligible population that is going to be required for making our GER 50. Because our GER is based on how many students with 12 pass qualifications are available. And that number itself is low. So this policy rightly focuses on school education as well. So unless we strengthen school education and then connect it with higher education, GER 50 is not possible. Just by increasing new number of colleges or new universities, we will not be able to increase GER. For strengthening GER, we have to strengthen our school system, control dropouts, at the same time improve the relevance of education, because if the education is not relevant, even eligible students may not take admission, and so our GER will remain less. I must tell you that we have compared GER of 10 different countries, and although we are always continuously told by the world that Indian GER is low, Indian GER is low, I must tell you it is not low as compared to many other countries if we consider eligible population. Our EER, or gross eligible ratio, is even more than United Kingdom. So we should be proud of our education system. Our education system is good, but the yardsticks or indicators which have been developed by outsiders are forced on us, and we must innovate our own indicators and tell the world that these are the correct indicators, and please judge us on the same level playing field. And I also, since we are talking about, I hope I'm still audible.
Yes, sir, you are.
I just want to make one important point. Milindji, you have given wonderful overview. I also wanted to tell you that we should not forget the significant, I would say today, this policy, what I see, because I have seen that happening, and therefore I thought that I must mention, we should not forget substantial, significant, visionary contribution that have come from Prakash Ji Javadekar when he was the minister. The roots of this policy were sown by him and the then secretary, Mr. Subramaniam, and both of them have remarkable job because they ensured that this policy is completely disconnected from the ministry. This policy committee under Dr. Kasturirangan was completely independent, and therefore you are able to see this kind of a visionary, bold, and forward-looking policy. I think we should keep that in mind, that this kind of a autonomy, if we are giving it to the right academic personalities, something different will come. We should really keep this in mind when we are implementing this policy as well. Thank you very much.
Sir, I think one of the main stakeholders for implementation of all these policy, parameters would be not only the NITs and IITs and Indian Institute of Science, etc. It will also be the large public universities like University of Mumbai, which has withstood and has been premier in offering higher education for more than 160 years. And we have with us Professor Honorable Suhas Pednekar, sir, the Vice Chancellor of University of Mumbai. So I would like to ask Pednekar, sir, the NEP has envisioned that over a period of time, all existing higher education institutions and new HEIs which are coming would evolve into either a research intensive university or teaching university or autonomous degree granting colleges. So in your opinion, how easy will be such kind of segregation and expected impact of such classification? Because now most of the times, even PG institutions offer, master's program and also conduct research. So how do we really segregate research from teaching universities?
Well, good evening. And first of all, let me place on record our sincere appreciation to Dr. Kasturirangan, the president and the chairman of the committee, all his members of the committee, our MHRD minister and the former MHRD minister Prakash Javadekar, and our honorable Prime Minister for giving us this wonderful new national education policy. And probably the first time there is a huge deviation from the maculae structure which we have been using in spite of, we have spent more than 7 decades after independence. So this is first thing that our country has got really a wonderful policy, education policy. And there are challenges, no doubt. So that is one thing, and I'm very happy to see the wonderful beginning with Milindji and Professor Patwardhan. They laid the foundation of this round table. And the question you asked me, I would say this is the best thing to happen in India, where the real segregation of universities is being envisaged and projected. We know that in our country, probably is the only country where the universities are the affiliating, and there are so many affiliating colleges with one university, and it practically becomes, unmanageable. Even if you take University of Mumbai, today we have 823 colleges affiliated to one university. And even the geographical area is so vast, distributed over 7 districts. And then the whole purpose of university and the concept of university is defeated, because we all know universities are meant to create knowledge through research. That knowledge is expected to be converted to wealth through innovation, and that is exactly missing. And all the universities, especially the state universities in our country, they are all the time busy conducting only examination and the whole process of setting question paper, assessment, declaring results. Again, once that one cycle is over, the next cycle begins. So I would say this is a very courageous decision, no doubt, in the National Education Policy 2020 to do away with the affiliation in the next, till 35, the next 15 years, and classifying the universities into three types. And one of the major decision that has been included in this policy is that every university is expected to be multidisciplinary, because that is the whole meaning of university. And we also know our universities do not stand in the first 100 or 200 in the ranking, and it's mainly because everywhere and every time we know the people point out at the output of research in the from the universities. No doubt, the number may be large in terms of producing PhDs, but at the same time, what is missing is the quality in research. So in this regard, it's a welcome decision in the policy to have a separate universities focusing more on research and providing probably a better support to such universities to take up research of relevance, what is required in the country. In fact, we all are going through this currently COVID-19 pandemic situation, and that has made us realize the importance of taking up the issues which will be socially relevant, even in research, rather than carrying out research just to obtain degree. Unfortunately, in our country, the standard of research output of any individual is determined only on the basis of number, that how many PhDs produced, how many papers being published, but are not taking into consideration the impact of that research. And two, even most of the universities, I'm talking about mainly the state universities, the same yardsticks are used to determine or to measure the standard of research that is been carried out by individual professors. So I feel the time has come where the university should be given freedom to concentrate more on the important issues, and therefore on that basis there will be three ways or classification of university. The first type is the research intensive university, where the major focus is expected to be carried out on the research in the relevant areas around us. We are going through the pandemic situation. We have to look at those aspects, the climate change, the pollution around us, the depletion of the natural resources, the water management. There are so many issues. And instead of carrying out individual research, it should be a collaborative approach. And a separate systematic approach is required to focus. And I feel once the implementation part of this policy begins, the separate parameters to be used even in calculating the workload, because somewhere the research intensive universities should be given more emphasis only on research rather than spending more time in teaching. And the teaching universities or the teaching intensive universities, probably yes, you can concentrate more on teaching aspect. And the third is the graded autonomy, which will be given, because as I said, by 2035 it is expected that no affiliation. And the existing colleges, there will be the parameters to judge on the basis of their accreditation, and they will be given graded autonomy, and they will also have opportunity to upgrade themselves into the first two types. So that way, I think there will be a proper uniformity maintained, proper standard will be maintained. And in this regard, when it comes to implementation, what I feel that there should be the concept of when we give so-called salary grant to university, it should not be on the basis of the individual teacher's salary being paid, but some salary should be paid in the form of a block grant to the university, and let university decide how to use that block grant in appointing teachers on the basis of their interest of research or interest in teaching. And of course, all the parameters of recruitment to be, or the norms of recruitment to be maintained, but it should vary from the type of university it is, rather than the similar parameters used everywhere. And I'm sure UGC will also look into this aspect when it comes to implementation part. But this is a very welcome step, and I'm very confident that once this happens, the research intensive universities will focus more on research with the help of industry academia linkages, because this is one thing which is missing in our country, is the industry collaboration in our research. And that is the reason the output of research, something is missing, is a relevance, because there has to have applicability of your research. And this is a welcome step according to me. It will take time, no doubt, because to do away with affiliation, I said, is a very, very courageous step that is taken by, or in this the national education policy. But that is the future, and we need to prepare the future generation, considering the challenges we will have. And universities will have more time then to focus more on creation of knowledge, and then imparting the new knowledge to the society. Because ultimately, the educational institutions are the integral part of society. Whether it is a college or university or whatever type of university, we must be able to fulfill the needs of society. And that is not happening to a greater extent at present. And that's what I feel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a very insightful analysis and also very practical suggestions. I'm aware that, for you handling a university with more than 800 and close to 823 affiliated colleges and wide jurisdiction, it is a challenge, and it is sometimes you always are looking for decentralization of processes. I would also like to say that we have with us, who's watching this program, Sir Srinivas Varakhede, who is the Vice Chancellor of Kulguru Kalidas Sanskrit University, Ramtek, Nagpur. We are happy to have so many Vice Chancellors and educationists who have joined us and watching us. And I'm sure everybody's feedback would be crucial. Debating is crucial, as Honorable Prime Minister also said, to implement this draft in its true spirit. So digressing a bit, we will go to school education, and I would like to address this question to Professor Marathe. Sir, this NEP 2020 is stressing on multilingualism and the power of language learning. It also states that the medium of instruction up till grade 5 will be home language or mother tongue or local language. And 3 languages has to be taught, which will be decided by the state or the union territory. Your opinion of this with respect to Maharashtra and rest of the states as well?
As I told you, that in basic philosophy, it is mentioned that the primary education should be in the mother tongue. Now, it is a proven fact that the child can have a clarity of thoughts and basic thinking process, thinking about the abstract, thinking about what is not present in the present situation in its actual form, is always facilitated well if your medium of instruction and your mother tongue is same. Because when I understand I am a boy with a Marathi medium school and my mother tongue is Marathi, actually I am understanding mi mulga ahe. So there is a translating device in my mind which occupies 50 to 60% of my thinking capability just for translation. So if that particular barrier is cancelled, my full concentration will be in understanding basic thoughts, concepts, and abstract thinking. So it is a proven fact. And that's why it is very much relevant that the students should get the education in mother tongue. But at the same time, it is also proved that the multilingual capability of the kids are extremely well. And those who are in Mumbai, when I am staying in a society where some Gujarati speaking, some Kannada speaking, Marathi speaking families are there, the kids can pick up very easily and very fast the multilingual words, vocabulary, and sentence structures, and they can adopt more languages. And that's why the thrust over here is mother tongue and home language. Why I'm saying mother tongue and oblique home language, oblique state language? Because in Maharashtra also, if a student demand that my mother tongue is Konkani, my mother tongue is Ahirani, my mother tongue is Khandeshi, it may not be perhaps possible to give the education in the mother tongue. That's why they have said that, okay, then it's a home language. Now, why they have said home language? For home language, they have in mind, if father is Kannada speaking and mother is Marathi speaking, but collectively they have decided that in home we will talk about in Marathi. So they have said it is a Marathi or the home language. And if that is not viable or very difficult to implement, definitely state language. Because we all are aware that in Article 8 of this Constitution, they have mentioned state languages. So that is the reason why they have preferably said that up to 5th grade and preferably up to 8th, the education must be in mother tongue. Another important thing is that from my point of view, we have unfortunately mistaken the language learning with a medium of instruction. And when I talk about medium of instruction, whether I will be taught science, mathematics, geography, history, social science in Marathi or English. When I completed my 10th standard, I completed everything from Marathi, because at that time Marathi schools were only predominant. And I opted for science because I was to pursue engineering career. So no doubt in 11th standard, for first 3 months there was a problem converting my Marathi knowledge into English, only science and mathematics. But the foundation and basics were so clear that we could excel in our future career. Another important thing is that don't consider language learning as a medium of instruction. But when I learn Marathi, I get connected to Tukoba Abhang. I get connected to the rich literature of Viva Shirvadkar. I get connected to the rich literature of Jnaneshwar, Jnaneshwari. And so when I get connected to the native language or the state language, I get opportunity to connect with the culture. And that's why language is not merely the medium of instruction or medium of communication, but it connects the students to the culture of that particular state. And that's why in this policy, because we want to get rooted with the wisdom of this Indianness, they have specifically mentioned that the learning should be from the native languages. And the policy has suggested that please try to take all North Indian state students should at least try to learn one South Indian language and vice versa. And that's why I think that this is the basic idea of language in schools. Now, whenever I am saying this, there are the issues, there are some opposite, what you can say, voices. But I think that we can handle that because three language formula is very old. We are used to it. Only thing is that now this policy has made it very loud and clear that in three languages, two languages at least must be the native state languages or Indian languages. And I think that this will give you the opportunity to the students for clarity, original thinking, then innovation, abstract thinking, because they are learning it in a mother tongue or state language. Simultaneously, they are trying to learn other languages, getting connected with the culture, literature, poems, and people of that state, and will be really the, what you can say, the torch bearer or they will carry that legacy of that state and the culture and values and ethos. And so I think that both the objectives will be achieved if we really go for mother tongue or state languages at university level. If you read the higher education part also, the 66-page document, 30 onwards is a higher education, you will find that it is recommended that even all higher educational courses also should be made available in regional languages. What is wrong in that? There should be a choice. And so this is a very, very big step, and students will immensely get benefited because of this. This is my humble opinion. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, sir. Very well explained. And children are known to imagine in their mother tongue, and then they write or speak. So the imagination happens in the language in which you are most frequently talking with, or talking in. So that makes a very relevant sense. So moving back to higher education, Dr. Patwardhan, the next question, because people are very curious, especially across the universities, under the common regulatory regime, how will the National Higher Education Regulatory Authority, NHERA, function, and what will be the verticals under its jurisdiction?
I think the policy has given the framework well, but it is a little early to talk about what will be the exact shape, because the implementation part is yet to begin. But as far as the broad framework is concerned, the multiple controls coming from different councils will be reduced, and that's what the policy intent was. And accepting the legal and medical education, even agricultural education is coming in mainstream, which is a very, very important step happening. But HECI, particularly HECI, then the regulatory grant giving body or the standard setting body, as well as the accreditation body, these are the bodies under the large umbrella, and the National Research Foundation. These are various components of the structure that policy has recommended. Are very good, but the key will be really structuring them properly, interlinking them properly, by bringing the right kind of people in the organization, because ultimately change will happen when there will be change in the mindsets, and not just by changing the names. So that is going to be a challenge, and I think currently we are in that process. So I can't really comment much on this, but the structure what suggested is really something which is required for bringing more academic freedom, more streamlining the procedures. It will help.
Right, sir. So as Professor Pednekar sir was just saying about research, that is one part where, our innovation index from our country, if you rule out IITs, Indian Institute of Sciences, NIPER, ICERS, is, much is to be done in that area. So I would like you to explain that what will be the role and the remit of the National Research Foundation. Yesterday, we also heard Professor Manjul Bhargava, and I remember he had come to Mumbai during the National Science Congress, and we had all teachers and students had interacted. So when he was talking about it will seed, foster, facilitate and fund research and assure fund allocation, how will how will this body take care that there is equitable distribution of funds across universities and higher educational institutions?
This is to me or to Dr. Professor Pednekar?
No, I would first like Dr. Patwardhan to answer, and then I'll move over in a connected question to VC sir.
Okay. See, National Research Foundation actually is aimed at bringing some kind of a overarching body, so that the possible duplication of funding and efforts in research can be streamlined. Today, there are various funding organizations. For example, in science, if you see, there is DST, DBT, there is medical research, ICMR, or Department of Atomic Energy. All of them, they fund research today. But the priorities set by them may have some overlaps. So the funding may go from multiple organizations for a common priority, and there can be area where if NRF like agency comes in, the resource optimization is possible, so that is, but that doesn't mean that these bodies which are existing in today will have no role. They will continue to fund in their own way, and NRF, very large projects, major projects will be addressed by the NRF. Again, as I said, that we are in the process of actual implementation of this policy. So even NRF structure and NRF functioning, NRF approach will get better clarified as we progress. But improving research, I just wanted to make a point that although a separation of research institutes and universities was there after independence, which many times we talk that was the not right thing to do, so you have separate research institutes and separate universities. So teaching and research cannot be separated, and yesterday's presentation I have made this point that despite all this, means, and universities like Mumbai, Mumbai University, with so many affiliated colleges, so much of pressure from administration of all these colleges, still their research output is quite good. If you consider all these limitations, many state universities have done good. And the contribution, science contribution in India, if you take, I would say that the academic contribution typically coming from state universities and the other type of educational institutes, is quite substantial. So we need to really strengthen that. We need to encourage research in the universities, and as the universities become more and more research centric, and as the colleges start climbing up the value chain from mere teaching college to research colleges, and then college research degree giving colleges, and then research intensive colleges go into the university structure or clustered university structure, this kind of a progressive nature this policy has opened up, and this will ultimately build in strengthening the research culture. Last point I want to make: in India, we have a very serious problem of integrity, academic integrity and research ethics, because there has been a culture, because the research degree was used as a tool to get job, and not research was driven necessarily through curiosity or interest. So this has to change, India has gained a very, very bad name in the global community because of the predatory journals, the tendency to publish in bogus journals by paying fees, and that is really, so the UGC has come out with Consortium for Academic and Research Ethics, CARE, and through CARE we are trying to bring in some order, but there is a need to really not only strengthen but also support research capacity building in research in our universities is also necessary. So these are going to be some of the important functions of National Research Foundation. Thank you.
Well said. I think you had covered some of the points in yesterday's your talk in the conclave as well. And I would like to pose the next question to Pednekar, sir. Sir, the higher education as per NEP is expected to become, as you said in your earlier statement as well, multidisciplinary with flexibility and fluidity for students with multiple entry and exit options. There would be a revamped curriculum, almost an overhauling of the existing systems. What will be the challenges in implementing these policies in a large public university like the University of Mumbai?
Well, before I answer this question, I will go back to your earlier question on research, because that is very, very important for all of us. And I fully agree with Professor Patwardhan, what he said just now, that somewhere we need to change our mindset and research culture has to change. And one good thing that has happened in the National Education Policy 2020, that even the undergrad options of 3 years or 4 years, even the 4-year undergraduate with research is one of the options students have. That means, and that is exactly the necessity, I feel, that the research should start even from the undergraduate level. And that is exactly the difference, I feel, between the higher education in India and higher education system abroad, where the thinking and inquisitive mindset that is initiated right from the undergrad level, and the research culture once start from the undergrad level, that automatically then the quality and everything will improve in the later stages. Coming back to the question you asked, there's another good thing that has happened and suggested in the national education policy is the multiple entry and multiple exit. Yes, because as we all know, earlier students, even for any reason, has to take drop after first year of undergrad or 2 years of undergrad education. The poor student never is to get anything, and after that, because of any reason he could not complete, he used to be labeled as 12th pass. So instead now there is an opportunity to at least get a certificate or diploma, and will be able to earn some livelihood or some job elsewhere. Not only that, after some or few years, if he or she feels to come back to education to complete the next grades, then that opportunity is there. So another good thing that has happened is lifelong learning. Now, while we implement such flexibility to students in terms of multiple entry and exit, and offering several options to the students, yes, there will be challenges to colleges as well as universities as how to manage this, considering the limited workforce we have, considering the limited infrastructure facilities we have. And that exactly where I feel we all need to come together and be more innovative now. We just cannot think on the same line as what we have been doing for years after years and continue our education system in the same manner. Then I would say we'll be doing injustice in the implementation of this entire policy. We have to be innovative and think differently as how this could be achieved. Why can't even we, the institutes or the colleges, work together in the form of cluster and share their expertise as well as infrastructure, maybe 4, 5, 6 colleges coming together and creating greater probabilities in terms of offering these courses as well as the different opportunities to students. And two, somewhere that rigid norms we have to do away with. When I say rigid norms in terms of, for example, when the recruitment of teacher and then the teacher's workload, in fact, I have always have some apprehension to use the workload, because teaching is not a load, but we must do away with that word, I feel. But that whatever teaching assignment should not be counted merely on the basis of how many students he or she has in the classroom, because that our so-called workload we count in terms of the number of students in the classroom. So that there exactly I feel some degree of autonomy is to be given to the teacher, to the institute, to decide as what is the new course that is to be implemented or to start with, and how to change the curricula, because there has to be a constant change in curricula, because your curriculum should be there should be a dynamic equilibrium with the surrounding, whatever we do, because ultimately, as I said in my first answer, the educational institutions always establish their equilibrium with surrounding with respect to economic, social, and environmental perspective, and that dynamic equilibrium and relevance to be maintained, and therefore the strength in the classroom will vary, because you may not be aware, even though, as I said, in the first year, X number of students have taken admission, we may not be sure that the same X number will be continued for the next year, because the students have the flexibility not only in terms of offering the combination of subjects, but even the student has the option to go to another institute or even university to earn some credit from there and go on accommodating that credit, because that ABC, Academic Bank of Credit, is a wonderful thing to happen. And that is how we will definitely make our education at the global standard also. And that, when happens, these are going to be some of the issues and challenges faced by the education institutions and universities, and therefore it should not be measured with the same parameters as what we have been using today. However, we must use the parameter of the quality and the benchmarks, and we should have that determination. And therefore, I feel the greater challenge will be also on teachers, and the teachers need to upgrade themselves constantly. And that is where we all should always and feel, I think we all know that we teachers should be student all the time and should be able to learn what is required in the outside world. And that is the reason why I agree with Professor Patwardhan, what he said, that even the teachers should have that research background, because teaching and research go hand in hand. They are the two sides of the same coin. So that makes you aware of what's happening in your field in the outside world. And therefore, there should the capacity building of teacher, constant upgradation of teacher has to be there. Otherwise, this technology will make teacher redundant one day. We should be very careful in that sense. So, and therefore I feel, and I'm confident about this new education, new national education policy, that mediocrity in future will go away. Mediocrity in terms of mediocre teachers will difficult for them to exist. Even the mediocre institutions will have difficulty to survive in future. And therefore, the whole system definitely will be moving in the right direction with quality. And I'm very positive that very good changes will happen in coming years in education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You always impress me when you talk. In fact, regarding the academic credit bank, the first time I heard is in one of your speeches. And as you said, we have to breed an ecosystem of excellence, and we all are stakeholders, and we have to make that happen. Thank you very much, sir, for your pragmatic thoughts. I would move over to Professor Marathe. Marathe sir, considering the timelines of execution of NEP 2020, will the expected transformation from pre-primary to higher education harness the demographic advantage of India? What we are aiming for, and we are known to be a country, young country. So will we be able to leverage and harness the demographic advantage, take dividends, demographic dividends, by implementation of this policy?
Whenever we are talking about the demographic dividend, it is always the age of earning population as compared to age of non-earning population, or the burden on the country as such. Unfortunately, at present, average Indian age is 29. So we are really, really a young country. But depending upon the research, it is always said that this demographic dividend is not perpetual. It is going to change as the life cycle changes. And many experts have said that in India, perhaps up to 2050 to 2055, we will have this young population greater than old population. So in a way, we have got a timeline that up to 2050, we are going to remain young. But if this demographic dividend, or the young boys and girls are not trained properly, then it is experience of the world that this demographic dividend can change into demographic disaster. And that's why I feel that the urgency in the implementation is very, very important. Now, in the national education policy, if you go for, they have very specifically said that the foundational literacy and numeracy up to grade 5 has to be considered as a top notch national mission for coming 5 to 6 years. Because if we can develop that particular thing, including ECC, early childhood care, where the kids of 3 age and above are coming in the formal education system, by taking into account their nutritional needs, their emotional needs, their intellectual needs, love, affection, a good atmosphere, and making their brain developed almost, because it is already proved that 85% of the brain is developed within the year of 0 to 6, and we recruit students in first standard at 6. For affluent people and middle class people, they can afford to send their kids in kindergartens and Montessori's. But what about our 40% population, which is hovering between the poverty line? So for them, government has taken care. And so if we go for this particular aspect, then foundational literacy and numeracy is a top plan. That is the first thing. If we can implement successfully, then that particular foundational literacy and numeracy competency will help the student to excel well after 6th standard, 7th standard, even college. By that time, if we can, what you can say, fine tune flexibility, quality of education, then research, if all these components can come together, then really by 2030, with the basic 10 years time, and for that 2035, if we can, what you can say, moderately become successful in implementation of that policy, then also our young generation, which is trained in a different atmosphere with this policy, will get minimum 20 years to cancel the demographic dividend year 2050. And that's why I feel that this timeline will be very important. Now, as far as the implementation is concerned, it is difficult. Many people are saying that it is difficult, but I feel that heavy consultation has been made, and so there is a pressure on the government, state and center, to implement it seriously. In addition to that, I know personally that along with the good draft prepared by Dr. Kasturi Rangan redrafting committee, there is a serious efforts in finance ministry, in Niti Aayog, at the PMO office level, and many Ministry of Education. So government is serious about that. And it has been proved by the speech of Honorable Prime Minister. It has given a clear message that government is very serious about implementation of this. It was a message to the bureaucrats. It was the message for all the population that we are really, really serious about implementation of this. And I'm sure that we all academicians here, which are gathered in this webinar, will be working as a watchdog. We will take a serious follow-up at state governments and central government, and we will definitely see that this excellent vision document will come on the ground for actual implementation. So I think that looking to the demographic dividend up to 2050, I think 2030, 2035 target is fair enough, and I hope it will get achieved. Thanks a lot.
Very well elaborated, Professor Marathe. I'm happy to announce that we have close to 6,500 registrations for this roundtable and have got a phenomenal response of participation. As you are aware, all stakeholders are curious to know about the NEP and its manifestations. So I'm happy to say that we have, and we are very proud to have, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, Honorable MP, Rajyasabha, Chairman, HRD Standing Committee, President of ICCR. And I would like to pose the next question to Vinayji. Sir, please elaborate on the genesis of NEP 2020, the rationale, the key drivers, the objectives, and the vision. So you will have to unmute yourself. So you're muted.
I think for a gathering of this kind, where all the persons who are into the field of education, either as teachers or administrators or maybe students, or those who are interested in understanding the new developments in education are there, I need not say that, or I should presume that most of you must have already seen the document and gone through it. There are certain facts which are very clear that since 1986 onwards, for last more than 34 years, there was no new policy approach that was cultivated. And since the approach was not cultivated, naturally, there was no new policy document that could be created and that could be presented. So this backlog was huge. And in a way, through this particular document, that backlog has been cleared. Insofar as the objectives and other things are concerned, the document is very elaborate, at the same time very focused and very precise. But let me tell you that 3-4 things are very important. First of all, the document says in its preamble that we would like to do away with the gap which is there between the objectives of education and the way the education system is being implemented, and therefore doing away with all kinds of gaps, including the gap between the employability and the course curricula, or the kind of skills that we impart, the knowledge that we provide. And there are several other gaps also, which all of us know very well. So to do away with these gaps was one of the major areas which was a kind of objective behind this particular thing. Secondly, I was very happy to read that the document says that in 2040, we would like India to be next to none, which is world over, India becomes the education superpower. And this is not something which appeared in the dreams of the education minister in one fine morning, and then he has taken this approach. The work on this particular document was happening for close to 5 years, number one. Number two, even in the previous budget presented by Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, and I'm talking about the first budget of the new government, which was July 2019, she had stressed that we would like India to become the hub of higher education. So that particular idea was there at the back of the mind, and therefore all the provisions in this policy document are emanating from that particular lofty ideal, which is kept before the eyes by those who drafted the policy, or those who kind of gave this assignment to them. At the same time, there is another beautiful term that has been mentioned in the draft, which is we would like the kids, and I'm talking about the primary or pre-primary education, that the policy says that we would like to teach him learn to learn. Not only that the student should learn, but the students also should be able to learn, which is a very, very fundamental thing, because like teaching, like instructional kind of exercises, there is a science behind learning also. And therefore that learning science has been given a very, very serious thought, which is why we come across that there is a new pattern. Now, this question also crops up many a times, that why this 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. This 5 is very, very critical, because it starts from the early childhood education. And this is important for the very purpose, for the very reason that these days, as we observe, social scientists also have observed, that students, kids, children are coming of age a little early in their lifetime. And their exposure levels are also very high. Now a kid of just 1 year or 2 year old easily handles the smartphone given by his parents maybe. So in a situation like this, we have to take care of the child right at the age of 4 or 5, and therefore this 5 is very, very critical, and therefore this learn to learn is at the center of the whole thinking. And lastly, the document also puts emphasis on total revamp. The government and the policy framers desire to bring in reforms in practically every other aspect of education, whether it is textbooks, whether it is syllabus, whether it is examination and assessment systems, whether it is the way we conduct our universities and colleges and institutions, and also the relationship between the teacher and taught, the way we recruit teachers, the way we deal with the parents, because they are also important stakeholders in this entire subject of education reforms. So all these things are somewhere very articulatedly presented, which provide us some kind of an evidence to get an idea and to conclude that a huge amount of homework has already gone behind before the framing of the policy.
To the upward benchmarking of quality parameters across the matrices. Thank you very much, sir. The next question is again to you. What is the intent behind, you just now spoke about the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, this pedagogical and academic structure of school? Can you kindly elaborate us on the intent?
Well, I think, again, the document speaks about it quite elaborately, but the early childhood care and education, the foundation of learning, it's something, it has been recognized that this is very, very important, and which is why that 5-year block is there, which starts from pre-primary, primary, and then class 1, 2, and 3. So what happens is that there is an integration in between. Today, what has happened is primary schools are part of most of the secondary schools, or a kind of a integrated unit is there where you have a primary school and you have a secondary school also. Now here, what is envisaged is that there will be kind of integration in pre-primary and primary, which is not there today. Many times we come across, I mean, for example, there are primary schools, but there are different kindergartens or different arrangements for pre-primary school. So that arrangement, I have a reason to believe it's something which is, I mean, at that level, some kind of a reform is envisaged in this particular thing. Secondly, after the 12th standard examination, many a times our discussion has always remained only about what is the pursuit of education. It is both. Knowledge is also the pursuit and employment also the pursuit. Now, post class 12, whatever the degree courses that are made available, which are going to be of 4 years, that particular aspect is also taken care of, that it should be a complete degree education, so that tomorrow he or she desires to go abroad, then there should be a complete. Today, many times people face problems. If you have a 3-year course, then many foreign universities do not accept that particular. So that is also being taken care of. And the segregation between 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 also is a very thoughtful idea in this particular context, as I gather out of the document, which is why I think this is going to be a big change. Again, one more important thing is that the way our schools are being conducted today, they have provided for a cluster arrangement, which is also going to help us in sharing the facilities. For example, in a municipal school, typically, there are 4 schools in one building. And there are different schools because there are different ward offices which are controlling that schools. But they are housed in one building. Now, which is not required. I mean, for every school in one single building, if you have 4 libraries, what is the use of it and what is the requirement of it? Or maybe 4 laboratories. So the school complex idea is also very, very critical. And I believe that also I need to bring to the notice of the audience over here.
Elaborated very well. Now we saw that the timelines of execution is falling. Most of the milestones is falling in the next 10 years. And the final complete implementation will be by 2040. So how does the government envisage implementation of this policy, which is having so many facets to it?
I think we will have to wait for some time. Policy document, for example, if I recall the 1986 document, there was a national education policy and there was a national plan of implementation. So that plan of implementation, I am sure, is being evolved. It will also come before all of us because there are many institutions, many stakeholders. For example, doing away with the UGC and AICT and merging all of these regulatory bodies into one single regulatory body is a much needed and long awaited reform. But then to make it happen, a huge amount of homework will have to be done first. Without that, it cannot happen. And therefore, the national education policy is there. I'm sure there will be some document or the other which will talk about the implementation plan. And once that is before us, we will get a more holistic picture, a more clear picture, a more comprehensive idea as to how this is going to evolve. It will, of course, progressively unfold. Unfortunately, in our country, people don't understand and people believe that now that it has been adopted, it will be kind of a switch off and switch on situation where from tomorrow, all the MPhil classes will be closed. No, it cannot happen that way. Those students who are already enrolled in MPhil classes will definitely have a right to complete their education. The MPhil phenomenon will come to an end only after a certain period of time. Till that, maybe people may not register for new MPhil students if the government so instructs the universities. But as I said, it takes a little time and we will have to wait for the plan of implementation. Till then, I think we can definitely deliberate upon this and we can also give suggestions for implementation. Suggestions are always welcome. For example, as was mentioned here, I am currently presiding over the Parliamentary Committee on what was earlier known as Human Resource Development, or even today it is known as that, which is now being renamed as Education Ministry. So we will also be deliberating upon this. You can send your suggestions to us as well, and we will definitely take them into consideration. Our job is to provide some kind of a suggestion or guidance to the people in the government based upon the popular thinking and also the thinking of the members of parliament.
Thank you, sir, for this suggestion, because many of the participants today, those who are hearing us, are from higher education. Many of them are even students from school who have joined us today and are watching this exchanges.
No, but students, ma'am, give brilliant suggestions. Let me tell you. I have been advocating the participation of students even in the preparation of textbooks. I mean, for example, a class 9 student, if you ask class 9 Marathi students to prepare a textbook for class 7, I'm sure it will be the most brilliant textbook that will evolve out of these efforts.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
I mean, because they are actually at the receiving end. They know what kind of problems are there.
True. They know the ground realities.
Perfect. Perfect.
From the classrooms. Sir, kindly comment on the expected government spending on higher education in the future. Because you all are envisaging 6% of GDP in the future would be allocated to education, and maybe a fraction of it would also go into higher education. So kindly elaborate on that.
No, again, I think it is a project in the making, and therefore the finance ministry, in the light of the provisions in the new education policy, will definitely prepare a plan how to mobilize funds. And I'm happy that the socialistic hangover is now a thing of the past. We are not here. I mean, the moment I say this, there will be a clamor, oh, you are going to privatize. Not in that sense. But we should be aware that during the times of Rama and Krishna, when Sandipani and Vasishtha were running their ashrams, what was it? It was a privatized thing. So, I mean, there is nothing wrong about private enterprise in education if they are with clearer objectives and with no ulterior motives, if they are here into the field of education. It is welcome. You cannot outsource everything and say, oh, no, it's only the government that has to do it. And therefore, I think there will be a private participation also. Government will also try to mobilize more resources. There will be a plan to that effect, and I am very sure that now that the government has in fact set a target before it, that 6% of the GDP, which is a very practical thing, I believe so, and therefore there is every reason to be optimistic about there is a political will with which the policy document has come before us.
A question from me, if you allow. The government has intention of allowing top global universities to set base in India. Earlier also they were coming, but they were collaborating with Indian organizations in this. So what is the vision with which that has been allowed? It will pitch us with global universities. It will be good because we can collaborate. So it will give us opportunities. It will also provide challenges to us, and we have to live up to it. So I would like you to speak a bit on that.
See, again, I would say that let the nitty-gritty be taking some shape, and it may come before us in due course of time. But the point I'm trying to make is that in a globalized world, when somebody comes to you, in a way, you also take your things to him or her. If tomorrow, say for example, the London School of Economics opens up a chapter here and their school is allowed to function from here, we can definitely insist and we can tell them that in India, if you have to teach, you also have to teach Chanakya's Arthashastra, for example, although it is not entirely about economics, I know, but still. And therefore, political economy and related thinking of Chanakya could become a part of London School of Economics syllabus, which I believe is not there right now. And
I think Vinay ji, your frame, it's your screen is frozen.
hello, I'm sorry, there was some technical
Yeah, it
glitch.
was sudden this. Sir, can you repeat the last part of your talk?
No, I was saying that we need not be unduly apprehensive about the foreign universities coming to our country. When foreign universities come, to cut the long story short, Indian knowledge also could be exported. And there are several aspects of Indian knowledge which the world is not really in the know of. And therefore, we can do away with the lack of literacy about India and lack of consciousness about the idea of India and what all India brings to the global community. So let us look at it from that angle as well.
Sir, so due to paucity of time, I would request Professor Milind Marathe to kindly sum up today's discussion before I give the vote of thanks. Today's discussion on NEP 2020 and brief us on the takeaway for the students, the parents, and all other stakeholders and the common man. I would request the IT support to put everybody on the screen, please, so that we can see all the panelists together.
So it's very excellent. It was a very excellent session. And Honorable Vinay ji also could join with us, and he gave very valuable inputs about possibility of 6% investment of GDP on education, which is very encouraging. Similarly, we have got our Honorable Vice Chairman of University Grants Commission, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan sir. He has talked about the actual curriculum reframework and how the controlling or the regulating authorities will step up in a due course. Similarly, there was a talk about National Research Foundation, then how the three types of institutes can come up, that research dominated, teaching dominated, and autonomous colleges. Similarly, there was some discussion about early childhood care. So I think that the time is really short, and so we could cover these much points. But I would like to say some 2 3 points which are very important as far as this policy is concerned, and that is the ICT in education. Perhaps I think that it was already taken well by all the participants, so perhaps the questions were not posed. But National Educational Technology Foundation is established, and I'm expecting as an engineer that in 2021 the 5G will come into the India. It is a planned, and once the 5G technology reaches India, the speed and downloading will be extraordinarily increased, and because of that, many possibilities will come in reality. So that is the first part, that is the ICT in education. Second topic which I would like to say, that whenever such policy is there is a, what you say, fear that will it be really 100% GR? As Patwardhan sir has rightly said, that GR has got some misconceptions about the Indian GR. But this policy categorically tells about the socio-economically disadvantaged groups, and it resolves that not a single student from our country, whether he is socially or economically disadvantaged, women, transgenders, learning difficulty students, SCs, STs, OBCs, minorities, linguistic as well as religion-wise, nobody will left out. Rural needy, urban poor, migrant labor kids, so all will be taken care of, and that's why I think that socio-economically disadvantaged groups have already been taken care in this policy, and so this is another important aspect of this. Very important factor which has been talked first time in this policy very loud and clear is importance of online learning and open and distant learning, ODL. Separate accreditation norms are set. Their degrees can be compatible and equivalent to the normal degrees, whether you are doing it in face-to-face mode or ODL mode. So ODL is very important tool, and online learning is also a very important tool. Similarly, holistic education, shifting towards holistic education is also very important. As Patwardhan sir and Vice Chancellor has said, that our predominant focus in present education system is still on cognitive domain, and that too lower level of cognitive domain. That is information, knowledge, analysis, but still we are not touched upon evaluation, synthesis, abstract thinking, designing, which are higher cognitive skills, higher order thinking, problem solving attitude. So this we are not touched. We have also not touched affirmative domain. IQ we have touched, but EQ we have not touched. So there is a need to train the students how to work with the group, how to handle the group, what is the human being nature, how we can synchronize the energies of different personalities in a particular task in one direction, how we can concentrate, mind concentration and mind detachment is also equally important. So all this training about affirmative domain skills are also missing, which will be taken care by holistic education, which has been a core, what you can say, a factor of this complete education. Then similarly, psychomotor domain, which is learning by doing, experiential learning. There is a large scope right from 6th standard for the internship. 6th standard students in the vacation for 10 days will go without books and pens and paper, and they will watch experts, different vocational people, and they will try to get exposed to the real society and real professions. which will add tremendous value to their personality and their learning. So holistic education will be also very important. No doubt it's a new for us, and that's why this policy has clearly declared that multidisciplinary education and research universities, MERU, will be established. It will be public universities for holistic and multidisciplinary education, which will be at par with IITs and IIMs. So they will demonstrate the experimental setup and the pilot projects in various colleges and schools how to implement holistic education. And last point, which I would like to talk about, that this policy also very loud and clearly mentioned that though there is a welcome to the private education, private participants, as Honorable Vinay ji has rightly said, that this policy says yes to philanthropic private organizations, but not for profit private organizations. Another important thing is that the extracurricular, co-curricular, vocational, professional, general education, arts, science, commerce, all these compartments have been cancelled, broken, and everything has given its rightful weightage. So that is also an extraordinary, what you can say, step over there. Lastly, I would like to say that this policy will prepare students not for lessons, but it will prepare for the life. And that's why learning how to learn lifelong will be the key of this particular national education policy. And so I would like to say that some of the very important aspects from the students' point of view, as I said, it's a student friendly, number of scholarships, free ships, direct benefit transfer in the accounts. So all these measures are taken. No doubt we will have to implement it in a good sense. But I feel that though this policy seems slightly difficult for implementation, but it's my humble opinion that it is difficult for implementation, and that's why it is worth implementing it. अदरवाइज आसान बात तो कोई भी कर लेता है. इसीलिए मुझे लगता है कि वी विल हैव टू फोकस ऑन implementation. I thank to Dr. Kasturi Rangan for extraordinary vision document. I also thank to our former HRD Minister Zavadekar sir, because he was also played a very important role in formation of this national education policy. And all these honorable panel members of today's program, so they have made their valuable suggestions. And as Vinay ji has very correctly said, that no policy document is an end in itself. It is a perpetual. And that's why democratic and academic suggestions, constructive criticism, and constructive suggestions will always be welcome. Fortunately, Vinay ji is a chairman or president, I don't know exact title, but he is a president or chairman of standing committee of education, which has been formed by the parliamentarian. And so, as he has also appealed to us, we can send our constructive criticism, some constructive suggestions, even if feel so, to help this policy implement in a right spirit. So, to conclude, I would like to say that this is really a revolutionary, transforming policy, and it was the common people of this country was desperately wanting such type of policy, and I feel that the dream of the common student, common parent, common people, professionals, industries, the employers, it has been come true by that looking to the vision document. Now the next part is, though very important, is for implementation, and I appeal all these faculties, vice chancellors, that let us start forming the committees, task force. We should not wait for the government, central government task force, state government task force. Let us start working with university level, institute level, and try to do something implementable in the light of this policy. And then we will make our country. As Honorable Vinay ji has said that after 1940, we will be the top hub with the quantity and quality in education as throughout the world, and all the students from various nooks and corners of the world will definitely come to India for studying. Similarly, as we are inviting 100 top foreign universities, we are also should prepare our all universities to set up our campuses in foreign soil to give education of language, history, sociology, culture, all the topics of Ayush, Yoga, then languages. And so I think that we have a lot of things to give to the world. And so it will be a really a vibrant, modern, scientific policy document. And I hope that we will definitely try our level best, or will left no stone unturned to implement it. Thank you very much. This is my overall comment about at the time of concluding this particular session. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all the dignitaries present in this seminar, and Anuradha Madam for excellently steering the discussion throughout this particular 1.5 hour plus time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Marathe. Very well summed up. And you actually reflected the ethos of the NEP 2020. So on behalf of Academisthan, Vidyapeeth, Vikas, Manch and Srijan Sampada, I thank all the eminent panelists of our discussion today, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, Honorable MP, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, Vice Chairman, University Grants Commission, Professor Suhas Pednekar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Mumbai, and Professor Milind Marathe, former President, ABVP, and the patron of Vidyapeeth, Vikas Manch. Unfortunately, Ms. Shri Ashish, Shelar ji and Dr. Vasudha Kamat could not join us for this meet due to some other pressing engagements. I would also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Shri.Deepakkumar Mukadam for planning this endeavor and helping us curate this to the best of our abilities. Last but certainly not the least, all our valuable participants, from students to teachers to educationists to management members of institutions to vice chancellors to everybody, to common citizens. I would like to thank you all for your presence. You are the main person who would understand. It's very important that the stakeholders should understand the intent and the vision of the document, which has been created and curated from 2015 till date with a lot of diligence under the leadership of Dr. Kasturi Rangan. And as Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan also said, they were all part of it. And Vinay ji, the vision of the government to bring about revamping and transformative change from the pre-primary to higher education. So let us together strengthen the Indian education in spirit of the NEP 2020 and help the millennials, as Vinay ji said, the students, the millennials, the netizens of today, to be ready for the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. Let us gear them up and let us brace us all for the impending changes and bring it out in the best of our abilities. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad. Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you, Vinay ji. Thank you, Bhushan ji. Deepak ji. Thank you, Milind sir. Thank you, Suhas Pednekar sir. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.